That was me 2 a.m., smack in the middle of the worst snowstorm Minnesota had coughed up in 15 years. Power cut out like someone had yanked a plug from the wall of the universe. The world outside was this swirling chaos, snow pelting the windows, wind howling like it wanted to chew right through the walls. And all I could think about, honest to God, was my neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, 78 years old, living alone next door. Now for context, I'm Frank Novick, just another regular guy in Meadowbrook Heights, one of those picture-perfect developments where every house is a copy-paste of the last, where the grass is always the same length, and the homeowners association rules your life with a clipboard and a side eye. Usually I stay out of the drama, keep my dues paid, keep my head down. That night, though, man, everything changed. It was already -12 when the lights went out, but with the wind chill, it felt closer to -30. I'd spent the week prepping, stocked the pantry, gassed up the snowblower, double-checked my Honda generator. Yeah, I had one of those quiet, powerful, and according to the HOA, an eyesore. They'd given me grief about it before. Store it out of sight, Frank, they said, like it was some kind of weapon. But when you've been through a blackout or two, you learn real quick you want that generator. So I bundled up like a man heading into the Arctic, fired up the Honda in the garage, made sure my transfer switch was good thanks to my buddy Mike, the world's most paranoid electrician, and watched the lights flicker back to life. Furnace kicked on. I was golden. And that's when I thought of Mrs. Patterson alone. Lights out, probably scared out of her mind. Let me tell you, nothing feels colder than that kind of thought. So I did what any decent human does. I hauled myself through knee-deep snow to her door, knocked so long my knuckles hurt. She cracked the door flashlight, shaking in her hand, face pale and worried. "Frank, what are you doing out here?" she said. "You'll freeze." I told her I had power and wanted to run an extension cord over so she could at least get some heat and maybe save what was left in her fridge. She almost cried right there. Turns out the power company had no ETA and she'd been sitting there literally watching her breath fog up the air. So I spent the next half hour in the dark, stringing cords, setting up a space heater, plugging in her lights, making sure the fridge would keep humming. She insisted on making me tea before I left, couldn't say no even though my toes were going numb. Got back home and it was almost 4 a.m., and I thought, okay, maybe now I can sleep. Not a chance. Suddenly, this pounding on my door, none of that polite knocking stuff, I mean pounding. Open up, and there's Brenda Hartwell, HOA president, standing there wrapped in a fur-trimmed coat that probably cost more than my mortgage. She doesn't say hello, just jumps right in. "Do you have any idea what time it is?" She's got this look that could freeze water faster than the wind outside. I say, "It's 4 in the morning, Brenda. Is something wrong?" She lets me have it. "That noise pollution you're running, that generator is disturbing everyone. You're breaking the rules. Shut it down or face a fine." And I swear for a second I forgot about the cold because the anger hit me like a punch. "Brenda, there's a blizzard. People need heat. Mrs. Patterson could die if I shut it off." She just shook her head, told me the rules were the rules and gave me 15 minutes to shut it down or she'd call the cops and slap a $500 an hour fine on me. And you know what I snapped? I said, "Go ahead, call them. See if they care more about your noise complaint or about letting old folks freeze." She stormed off her house, by the way, had this faint glow from the windows. Maybe she had a fancy battery system, or maybe she was just full of it. Either way, I wasn't backing down. 20 minutes later, red and blue lights cut through the snow. 2 cops at my door, Officer Chen and Officer Rodriguez, both exhausted but polite. They came in, checked the generator, saw it was installed right, checked the decibel level, it wasn't loud. Trust me. And basically said, "Look, HOA bylaws aren't our job. And with the governor's state of emergency, those rules don't count. You're good." They even asked if I'd be willing to lend the generator for a few hours. There was a family with a newborn nearby. No heat, getting desperate. How do you say no to that? So I made sure Mrs. Patterson was settled and warm, moved her and her cat into my house, then let the officers take the generator for that family. Here's where things start to twist. The next morning, son, barely up a woman I didn't know, showed up at my door, panicked. Her dad on oxygen backup battery, dying, no way to get to a hospital. Hospitals were on diversion. Ambulances weren't coming for anything short of a heart attack. I had a Jackery camping battery, just enough juice to run the concentrator. We got her dad set up. I saw the color return to his face, and honestly, I thought if nothing else, this was worth it. She tells me Brenda called her too, threatened her with a $1,000 fine for running a generator even though she didn't have one. Brenda was on a warpath, banging on doors, trying to enforce her rules in the middle of a life or death situation. I started to get mad not just at Brenda, but at the whole rotten idea that a piece of paper or a power trip could matter more than people. I told Jennifer, that was her name, if Brenda shows up again, call the police. What she's doing is illegal now. She thanked me like I'd saved her father's life. Maybe I had. That day, Brenda tried to go after another neighbor, Tom, a single dad, with a kid who needed insulin kept cold. Tom snapped, filmed the whole thing, and suddenly, half the neighborhood was outside, phones out, people finally standing up to her. Paul, the old-timer who'd lived there since the first house was built, stepped in. Turns out Brenda wasn't even following HOA procedures. Linda, Paul's wife and a lawyer, confirmed Brenda didn't have the power to fine anyone on her own, especially during a state of emergency. That's when the tide turned. The neighborhood, after years of everyone keeping to themselves, started to feel like a community. People pooled resources, shared firewood, ran cords, made hot meals together. We checked in on each other. When my generator came back, I hooked it up for whoever needed it most. Paul started a group dinner, 20 neighbors by candlelight, swapping stories, real human connection for the first time in ages. Brenda, she was alone. Linda made it official that night. Brenda was suspended. Her fines were void and new bylaws would protect people during emergencies. It was like a collective sigh of relief swept the room. And Mrs. Patterson, dear Mrs. Patterson, she told me I'd started it. You showed everyone it's okay to put people first, Frank. That's leadership. Never thought of myself that way, but maybe she was right. A few days later, local news showed up. Tom's video of Brenda's meltdown went viral. HOA president threatens residents. During Blizzard was the headline. I got shoved in front of a camera, told the story, tried to keep it simple. Brenda was facing not just local anger, but national attention. Power came back after 40 hours. The relief was real. The HOA board held an emergency meeting, biggest turnout ever. Brenda showed up with a lawyer, but it was over. She was removed pending a criminal investigation. Turns out her actions threatening people, trying to stop them from using emergency equipment, could be criminally reckless endangerment. The county attorney took it seriously. She was charged, convicted on multiple counts, and banned from any HOA leadership. She had to do community service and eventually moved away. After that, the neighborhood transformed. Paul became HOA president. He was all about common sense and helping people. We stocked up on emergency supplies, bought community generators. Mrs. Patterson started weekly coffee mornings. People actually knew each other, cared about each other. That icy, sterile suburb turned into something that felt like home. And me, I kept my generator ready, helped out where I could, but mostly I tried to just do the right thing, be the kind of neighbor I'd want. When the next storm came, folks didn't wait for permission. Generators fired up, extension cords snaked across yards, nobody called the cops. The new HOA sent out an email thanking everyone for their community spirit. Imagine that. Here's the thing I learned: sometimes the worst circumstances bring out the best in people. Sometimes you need a bully to push everyone together. Brenda thought she was enforcing order, but all she did was show us what mattered. Her rules crumbled. The community thrived. Justice didn't just mean she got punished, it meant the whole neighborhood changed for the better. Now when I walk outside and see kids playing, folks chatting, people helping each other, I think, yeah, this is what it's supposed to be. Mrs. Patterson passed away a couple years later, peacefully in her sleep, warm and loved. She left me her cat, Mr. Whiskers, and a letter thanking me for the warmth, literal and otherwise. So what's the moral? It's not about sticking it to the HOA. It's about realizing that rules are supposed to serve people, not the other way around. When authority forgets that when power gets used as a weapon, not a tool, it's on us to stand up, to say no, to help each other. That's what community means. Not just a place to live, but a place to belong. Let me ask you, where's the line between order and compassion? When do rules help, and when do they hurt? I'm curious, what would you have done? Have you ever faced down someone in authority because you knew it was the right thing? Drop your thoughts below, share your story, your take on justice, on HOA drama, on community. Let's keep this conversation going. Because trust me, you never know when a little act of kindness or defiance might just change everything.
Cảm ơn các bạn đã xem video.